We here in the Durham region respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island. Miigwech.
And I'm just wondering if there are special intentions, if you'd like to just hold people in your heart while saying the prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The hope of spring. God, thank you for spring and the hope of warmer, longer, brighter days. Thank you for the coming of growth and life and birth. Thank you that things are coming awake in the world. This is what our calendar says, and we do see some signs that it is real. But we also still struggle with the residual layover of winter. Now we ask that you bring into reality all what belongs in this season. Your word says that we will have provision and hope and joy and health and loving relationships here and now in this life. We ask that what belongs in this season would become actual in our practical lives. We hope in you and in your promises. We hope in your gift of spring. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So welcome tonight for Navigating Kindergarten, our tips and strategies to support communication skills and well-being. We will be sharing the slides and covering aspects of our tips and strategies from a psychological lens, a speech and language lens, and also an applied behavior analyst lens. And like we said earlier, we welcome your questions if you would like to write them in chat. And I believe Ms. Plant is going to be watching the chat for us. Thank you. Our goal for today is to review the key skills that are going to monitor and develop and help your child get ready to start school. We know it's a very exciting journey and also can be a bit nerve-wracking when you're sending our young ones. I have twin 11-year-olds. I remember the journey going back and prepping for them to go to kindergarten and think what I should be maybe doing a little bit of in advance, but also a bit nervous just to kind of let them go on their own for the first day. So we're going to be covering the topics of communication, language skills, reading readiness skills, early math skills, fine and gross motor skills, self-care skills, social emotional skills, and separating when you finally have to say goodbye and enjoy your day and see you in a few hours.
Well, here I go. You give a speech language pathologist the floor to talk and you're in trouble now. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie, and I'm a proud speech language pathologist, and I've been working for Durham Catholic District School Board for almost 12 years now, believe it or not. I am truly honored to be here to collaborate with this fantastic team, and first and foremost, talk about my most exciting, most passionate thing I can ever think about, which is oral communication, talking. So why did I become a speech language pathologist? Because as a human being, communication comes through connection. So connection as a human to other humans is through communication. So it is a give and take. It is a synonymous relationship that cannot be broken. So what I believe is really important for you to understand, I have a million things to share in a short amount of time. But I really want you to know that I believe that you are the key. You as your child's primary caregiver, parent, grandparent, perhaps aunt or uncle, whoever's in this meeting today, welcome. You are the key to helping your child with their communication. So that comes by speaking in your own home language, or L1, as they call it in the fancy terminology, primary language, your mother tongue. Whatever language comes directly from your heart is the language that we know in the research is the best language to use with your child. It will give you the most value in terms of connection, which of course goes hand in hand with communication. And it will ensure a great baseline or a great basis or foundation for your child's future academic career or academic experience in the English-speaking school system, or if you choose to go the French immersion route. It's also important to understand that communication is complex, hence why it takes many years at university to become a speech and language pathologist. It is much like a tennis match or a volleyball game or even a fast game of ping pong. Conversation is key. So again, keeping in mind that when you toss the ball back and forth between your child and you are teaching them valuable skills. This doesn't mean just asking a basic yes/no question. It is not just a list of what color is this? What number is this? Can you count to 5? It is the journey of exploring, talking, explaining, listening, responding. And again, thinking of that game of ping pong or tennis, it's back and forth. What's important to keep in mind with that as a parent is, although you really want to teach your child, you really want them to learn to talk more or understand more, you have to balance the comments that you make with the questions that you ask. Because as you all think about it in our own lives, we don't like to be drilled question after question after question, because then we feel like we're in a test or we're being interrogated. Our children don't need to be interrogated. They're only 3, 4, 5 years of age. They need to explore through play, through enjoyment activities, and in a naturalistic learning environment, which is based around their interests. So when we think about this ping pong game, we also want to think about how important the vocabulary that we expose our children to will help them develop more vocabulary. So what the analogy is that like a garden needs multiple things in order to grow, our child's brains need multiple vocabulary words to expand their knowledge of the world. As many of you know, there are a multitude of words that can be used instead of the word big. So if our child says to us, I want the big car, as a parent, our response could be, okay, and we could give our child the car. Now, on the other hand, in order to keep that conversation going, rather than just saying, okay, we could respond with, you like the enormous car? You like the gigantic blue car? Or we could say, what is it about the gigantic car that you love so much, right? So we could use a multitude of words to use instead of just the word big. So expanding our child's vocabulary will in fact help to produce stronger outcomes for vocabulary down the road. Next slide, please. So in terms of milestones, we all know, and we get a little bit nervous, I do at least, when someone says, well, perhaps your child's not meeting their milestones. I can assure you that milestones, Dr. Evans, there we go, okay. The slides will be up again shortly. What's important to recognize for milestones is it's just a target. That being said, if your child's not meeting that target, it's really important to get them the services and the supports that they could benefit from earlier rather than later. For many of you, you know that early intervention is best. And that we know in the research that the wait and see approach isn't all that effective, and it certainly doesn't make parents feel very great either, just waiting around to see if their child outgrows something. So these are the things to consider. If your child is between the ages of 3 and 4 years of age, these are the basic communication milestones to keep in mind. The first thing is that your child is clear, meaning that they can be understood by others most of the time. So the only way for you to know that is to actually ask your friends or ask grandparents or ask aunts or uncles, can you understand my child when they speak to you? Because your ears as parents are going to adjust to their subtle articulation or not so subtle articulation challenges. It is in our nature as parents to adjust our ears to meet the needs of our child. Okay, so keeping that in mind, if you yourself notice that somebody comes up to you often and says, "What did your child say? What did they say?" That's an indication that it's not just their ears as the adult, that there might actually be some coordination or articulation challenges relating to the motor or the mouth or tongue or lips or jaw of your child, which is not anything that's completely unheard of. In fact, we know in the research in Canada, between 8 to 12% of children have some type of communication challenge. Now, that might explain why we already have 60 people in the room viewing this today. So thank you all for coming and being so passionate to help your children, as I am passionate to be here. Keep in mind as well that just speech clarity is one area of communication, but it's the one that we notice the most often because it's what we hear. When children perhaps are only using short phrases, we might not notice that. But all of a sudden, when they're using 6, 7, 8-word phrases, we might notice that the sounds that they're saying are a little bit more muffled or disjointed. So those are things to pay attention to. If your child is not yet using 5 or more words in phrases, for example, I want some chocolate milk. Can I go play outside? I like the slide. It's fast. And notice that it may not have the S on the end, and that's okay for their age. They're still developing the grammatical structure. The next one that's really important is the following directions. How many of us really don't follow directions very well? I get it. We all live a very busy life and we're not necessarily always paying attention to the subtleties. And that's what we can do over the summer to help our children, or not even summer, I'm thinking spring, summer at this point, to help our children to learn to listen, pay attention to the steps of the direction and follow them in sequence. Because in school, there are a lot of directions that are given verbally. So examples might be during playtime or craft time, we might say to your child, get a piece of paper, draw a circle, then give it to me. Noticing that those are 3 distinct steps that require some amount of memory and remembering the details of those. Other examples are listed. And then the other part around the vocabulary that I've already alluded to is that children need to understand the concepts within our language, like big and little, enormous versus tiny, under, on, beside. They need to understand the concept of being first versus last, not just in line to go to things, but also if they have a row of cars that they're playing with, or some Play-Doh that they've rolled out, knowing that in the English language, our first is from left to right, right? Because depending on where the door is, obviously. Okay, so that's my spiel on the milestones. What I need to remind you is don't panic. If your child is not yet meeting these milestones, 1, 2, or all of these milestones, know that that is not terribly uncommon. There is a percentage of kids that do have these struggles, but there is support out there. And being proactive and getting onto the wait lists is the most important thing that you can do, along with some other strategies that will be discussed later. Next slide, please. So the waitlist is through the Grandview Preschool Speech and Language Program. And I love the old picture of the telephone. It makes me chuckle because nobody would really recognize that. None of the kids on this list, right? These kindergarten kiddos. But remember that the Grandview Preschool Speech and Language Program, although I'm a school-based speech language pathologist with Durham Catholic, I do advocate for this because it is the preschool program. Your child is still a preschooler before they enter JK. So in order for you to move forward with getting them an assessment and getting them some play-based intervention and getting some strategies yourself on ways to help them with communication at home, get on the wait list. This is the number to call, and you don't need to go to a doctor first. You call that number directly and they send you an intake package to your home address. So that's exciting because really you don't have to, pass go and collect $200, in that game of, Monopoly. What you do is you pick up the phone and you just call directly and get the supports that your child needs for communication as soon as they can accommodate on their wait list. So that's my spiel about speech and language for now. And Any questions in the chat box? Nothing at all. So go ahead to the next slide.
Dr. Evans, you may just want to unmute, please, if possible.
Thank you. As psychologists, we are really excited to look at supporting you to support your children to be their best selves. And just like I have to put glasses on every day to see the world, sometimes we can give everything to our children in terms of assisting them to read and get readiness, put readiness skills in place, just like having fun and reading books at night, or when you're driving in the car and pointing out those symbols, like the McDonald's signs or the Toys R Us signs, stop signs, really talking out loud, like Ms. Plante was saying, talking through your world on a daily basis, no matter where you're going. If you're busy and you're heading over to the grocery store, when you're at the grocery store, not just saying that's the orange, but if you see the word orange, pointing that out, because the brain is looking at the word and putting a sound connection on those letters and on the syllables that make the word. And the brain is really cool because when it arrives, it's equipped with all sounds for all languages. So you're also not overwhelming your children if you are saying that that's an orange and saying it in your first language as well and adding English, or adding 3 languages if that's how you speak, or 5 languages. The brain's ready to go. And I'll talk a little bit about when you can notice that your child might just need some glasses or a little bit of assistance if you're finding that those reading skills aren't advancing in a direction that you think, where your child is having some difficulty maybe putting sounds on the k, at, or you find that they're saying the second letter first, just at, or not sounding it out and saying Kate, and then you say cat and they look at it again and say Kate. That's when they're younger, you can talk to the doctor or about some of these things when they're doing their readiness evaluations from their physicals, and their doctors can point you in some directions of where to get a little bit more assistance if you're finding or you have a bit of concern about the reading skills. But in order to support, just in general, when you're hanging out and you've got very busy lives and many things to do, having some time away from screen time and being able to look at the books with your children, grabbing some from the library, some short daily book reading. 5 to 10 minutes can feel like a really good hour with your children. Like, it feels like a lot. So 5 to 10 minutes is really good for reading readiness skills, looking at books together where parent and child, you're holding the book, you're talking about the images you see, that the talking is more important than reading the word off the page. So the chit chat about what's happening in the book, using your finger to follow along, but you don't need to constantly be making your child look at the word. They will naturally glance toward there if you're pointing. Some books have a lot of repetition. My children's favorite was the hug book. So the word hug got bigger and you flip the page and it was another hug. That's a lot of repetition of the same word so that they're able to learn that sound. Starting to connect those sounds with letters and words is really exciting and it's fun. The word stop starts with the same sound as star. So stop. And you can point out some of those same sounds so that when they see the S or S and T, they know that it makes the st sound. There's a tree, rhymes with 3. And that's why there's a lot of rhyming, because it's looking at the syllables E and you're saying E, 3, tree. And then you can draw pictures to support and express these ideas. These are all preparatory reading readiness skills. I did my PhD research studies at Sick Kids in looking at the underlying neurological or brain processes that not only underlie math, reading, but also underlie math. And what we found was similar brain areas, kind of side by side, are looking at that word cat and also looking at 2 + 2 and knowing that it's 4. And the same kind of learning processes go along with math that go along with reading. So when you were grocery shopping and your kids are along going with you and you're kind of supporting some reading skills, and let's say that we're in the cookie section because that's the fun and cereal section. If you just even look at the cereal section and you see checks and you have 2 boxes of checks, you can say, I have 1 box and I add on 1 more box. I have 2 boxes. Or count the number of checks boxes. Count the Captain Crunch boxes. Count how many cans of soup you see. Just learning to count to 10 in real life examples. When we're driving, count to us how many stop signs you see. I know sometimes I used to think when I got in the car on Monday morning, oh, the peace, because I love my kids. I missed my kids, but I just loved the peace for like the hour I was in the car of just the silence. And I know that I'm asking you to a lot of more demands of language, but when you've got the kids in the car, and even if they're singing songs and you're tired, if you have some songs on that are counting to 10, Sesame Street or Bubble Guppies or whatever you have your kids, the students, your children watching, that's counting if you're tired. You don't always have to be engaged, but asking them, you know, how many kids did you see at the park today? How many McDonald's signs are we seeing on our long drive? Just assisting in real life examples of counting. Asking them to identify objects. How many are in that group when you're at the grocery store? How many apples do you see on top? Doesn't matter how many there are, but as long as they're counting 1, 2, 3. Going for a walk and pointing out, look, there's 2 cats. There's 3 trees. There's 4 cars. Then there's identifying shapes, because we all know that in math, we use shapes. Square, that's a square. That orange is a circle. That's a triangle. Look, that's a star shape on that cereal box. Oh my goodness, they put hearts in that cereal. Can you imagine? In the kitchen, that plate's shaped like a circle. I'm giving you chicken nuggets. They're almost shaped like circles. Look at that round piece of pineapple I cut you. That's like a circle. Look at that piece of bread. It's a square. Look at that piece of cheese. It's a square. All of these squares make your grilled cheese. I'm so sorry. I have puppies. Katie, could you take over for a second?
No problem. So when we're thinking about things in order, we're thinking about the smallest object to the bigger object. So I'm sure some of your children already really enjoy sorting and categorizing in those ways, but that's really great, not just for language, but for mathematics and for awareness of size. Also identifying colors and sorting things by colors can also add some skills, some benefits to their skills around mathematics. This is actually a really great time while Dr. Evans is away and she's in control of the slides. So I wanted to address a question that was asked, actually. Is this a good time? Oh, why don't you keep going? We'll address the question after. Go ahead, you're back.
No, you go ahead. Go
Well,
ahead.
the question was actually really great because it was about a family whose child speaks in a language other than English and is meeting all the milestones in that language. And the question is, though, that she's entering an English school and obviously within Durham Catholic. And the question is around how to support that. And you know, unfortunately tonight we don't have an English language multi-language learner teacher here with us, but based on my experience and my expertise in oral communication, it's fantastic that she or he has a baseline in their home language. And what I would encourage is opportunities to do play dates which we'll come back and discuss later on as well, play dates or opportunities for drop-ins where English is the language. So there's a little bit of exposure that way. Anyone else have anything to add about that?
No, but we could also add that we do have ELL teachers that will, educators that will be in our kindergarten classrooms. So if you do have a child that you feel may have some difficulties with the English language, our best advice to you at this time would be to notify your administrator, which would be the principal of the school, in which they will then let the PST, which means program support teacher within the building, and also be communicating with both educators that will be in your child's classroom, the ECE and the OCT, in order to be able to provide support when your student does start kindergarten in September.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I should have mentioned, I'm sorry, I have two little puppies that when they saw something out the window, I have a very open townhouse, so I don't have anywhere to put them, so they just might bark, but if they're hearing them, they're very tiny and they sound bigger than they are, but I'm sorry if that unnerved anybody. They might bark again, but I'll just immediately mute and ask Katie to take over. So we were talking about this excitement of math and this journey of anywhere you're in the world, like being at the park and counting the children, counting how many swings there are, how many times you're swinging, 1, 2, 3. The next part, and we're going to just talk about, is our fine and gross motor skills. So hands and then like big movement. The importance of that in learning how to coordinate our bodies and move. For fine motor, for readiness for kindergarten, just learning to hold the pencil. So holding the top of the pencil with the, can you see me okay, Katie? With your index finger and thumb, and then this third finger is coming in as support. And trying to, you can get YouTube videos on how to hold a pencil properly. You don't have to sit and overcorrect if they're not naturally holding it, perfectly, but trying to encourage them to hold that pencil the best way that they can, even when you've got with crayons or the big thick crayons, trying to move away from this fist grasp to more of a like you would yourself hold a pen or a pencil. Practicing and just drawing, or let's say you're at the doctor's office and you're waiting and you've got a pack of crayons. If you go for dinner anywhere and they give you the free pack of crayons, I used to keep all of those in my purse with a little notebook and hand that over anytime you're sitting and waiting, or you're in the car waiting, or they're in the grocery cart. Anytime that they can get fine motor is very helpful. Also getting the child-friendly scissors where they can't cut themselves from like a dollar store. Just being able to get the fingers in to grasp and open and learn some cutting. They might be a bit young to actually cut around complex lines, but definitely straight lines and cutting. But even just cutting the paper randomly and not having any specific shape is very good preparatory skill for their fingers when they're about to enter kindergarten and will be learning a lot of or doing a lot of arts and crafts. Copying basic shapes, so learning to draw squares and circles, triangles, stars, diamonds, putting together simple puzzles. So if you don't have puzzles, you could cut one out of a piece of paper and draw your own lines, cut that out yourself if it's a bit too complex for your young child, or if you have older children that could help, then mixing up like 6 or 8 pieces and having them put it back together. If they color a picture, you can also cut out puzzle pieces from a picture if they're okay with cutting it up. And then you mix it up and they put it back together with their hands to make the puzzle. Gross motor, any chance they have for running and jumping with their feet together, hopping on one foot, climbing stairs 1 foot at a time, bouncing balls and trying to catch it. Any opportunities for that kind of movement will prep them for when they're in the playground and for recess and for gym when they have gym, and prep them for kindergarten.
We had an excellent little comment, and I'm sure many of you parents can relate that their child, 4-year-old, gave the youngest a haircut when she went to do something in the other room. So just keep in mind that when we are using implements, that they need to be under full supervision. And when we do leave the room, obviously the scissors come with us. Anyway, thank you for sharing.
This is going from slide 8 to slide 10. Is this Michelle? Can we hear Michelle? Michelle's our applied behavior analyst, and she'd called in on the phone.
She says she's
oh,
now.
No. Miss Plant, Katie, were you going to take
yeah,
Michelle?
I'd be happy to do that. Michelle's not in the room. Oh dear. Okay, well, I'm happy to take over for that. Self-care skills involve dressing, involve undressing. And as many of you know, around the winter months, especially, there's a lot of layers to that. And so those zippers, the boots themselves, using Velcro, putting snaps together, the containers, and this will come up again in your Welcome to Kindergarten evenings that you visit your schools, your child's schools, but even having things that they're able to open and close. Michelle, are you there now?
I am,
Oh,
yes.
okay,
Hi.
welcome.
My apologies, guys. I have my cell phone going and my laptop, and they're just not working for me tonight. I'm having some tech issues. But as long as you can hear me, I'm going to take over for right now. Okay, perfect. I see thumbs up. Hi, everyone. Again, my apologies for the kind of situation that I'm in with my tech issues, but I just want to quickly introduce myself partway through this presentation. My name is Michelle Adair, and I am a BCBA or behavior analyst with the Durham Catholic District School Board. I'm really happy to be here and hope that the pieces that I kind of tie in give you some additional information that can help support you and your child moving into kindergarten. So the slide that we're looking at right now is pertaining to self-care skills or self-help skills. And so some things that we've listed here are different skills that we see being beneficial for a student entering kindergarten as part of their daily routines that they're experiencing throughout their day in kindergarten, and in terms of the expectations of their independence throughout the day with different routines. So the first thing that we've noted is some dressing skills. So things like being able to, put on their own coat, being able to take it off, putting on their own shoes, being able to take them off, maybe even mittens and gloves and scarves and that kind of thing as we get into the colder months. And even more so being able to do up those pieces. So being able to pull up and pull down zippers, being able to put buttons through holes if necessary when they're, dressing themselves after using the washroom. Snapping snaps, using Velcro. It really depends on what you're sending your child in. And it's always good to think about those things ahead too, what they're more likely going to be wearing during those times. It's okay if your child's struggling with tying shoes or something like that, utilize the Velcro shoes at that point in time, because there is a lot of expectations in terms of independence around those pieces and them being able to kind of complete those daily routines with their dressing skills. Of course, educators are there to support them through that, but I think the more that they have practice with it, the more independent they'll be throughout their day. Another area to kind of think about for supporting your child as they move into kindergarten would be some of those like hygiene skills. So things like hand washing and toileting, of course. So using the toilet and washing their hands afterwards, or just hand washing is expected at the sink throughout the day before they maybe have snack or if they've done craft or something like that. And even wiping their face after meal times or keeping themselves tidy throughout a meal time. A third kind of skill area that we were looking at was being able to successfully access their backpack and get out the belongings that they need for their day. So, you know, the expectation will kind of be that they put their backpack in their designated area, maybe hang it on a hook, and that they're able to unzip and zip their backpack open and close to be able to then pull out the things that they need. Usually the core pieces throughout the day, right, are they're going to be their lunch or snack bag that they're going to be accessing for meal times. And so being able to kind of take those pieces with them where they need to go, and then being able to open and close the lunch bag or lunch box that you send them with, even thinking about to the extent of like some of the containers that we might be sending, right? Sometimes some of those containers that we can send, the snap lids can be really tight or kind of hard to open and close. So just thinking ahead a little bit about what your child can do independently and what they might be successful with throughout their data access. And then the fourth kind of skill area that we outlined was things around tidying up. So again, being able to hang up their backpack and their coat or pull it off the hook when they need it, putting their shoes and boots together. So just kind of in a tidy manner and keeping their personal belongings kind of in their designated space. Wiping up spills if they need to, if they've spilt something throughout the day, and in general, just putting materials away or toys away when that expectation has been placed on them. Okay. I see a question come through, but I think Katie answered it. Yeah. Do you notice that kids born later in the year needing more assistance with self-care? Okay, great. Thank you, Katie.
Oh, this is me again, the social communication thing. Excellent. Thank you again. So social communication isn't something that obviously can be taught or practiced very well at home alone. And so I'm excited when I can talk about social communication and we're allowed to get out again and we're allowed to socialize and go to the parks and libraries. And there's plenty of programs available in Durham around the early years or the region. So keep in mind, when you're out and about in the park, don't just be a passive observer. If you can, get in there, get to know the other parents, scaffold or model. So those are fancy terms for just showing your child what to say. Hi, my name is, what's your name, right? So sometimes we might need to cue our child, and sometimes our children don't necessarily want to talk yet. They may be comfortable speaking at home, and yet in certain situations, they might feel a little bit more shy or anxious, but not making a big deal about it and not forcing it is really important. So when you're thinking of advancing or helping your child expand their skills around social skills, so don't just plop them in the room with other kids and hope that they figure it out. The main suggestions are to do it in a way that's not an observer, but more of a participant. So you'll want to encourage that social engagement. You'll want to encourage her to share or him to share, ask others to play. And one of the best ways to do that is just to be there. Be there with your child, listen and observe. And those accessible programs, we have a list of them at the end of our presentation. The Early On is one that I absolutely love. They have wonderful ones in different languages and cultures as well. So if those of you, there's, I believe they call it a Latino drop-in program in Whitby at the Early On. And I'm sure that there's others now that are running that I'm not as familiar with. The library has great programs and so on. So keep an eye on what's online for those. Thank you for the information on the Early On, Lutasha. That's wonderful.
Is that in the chat?
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing.
One of the questions that just came through before we start into social emotional learning, Michelle, is around, can a child start kindergarten in diapers? I don't know the answer to that question, so.
I unfortunately don't know 100% either, the answer to
I can
that
speak to that.
question.
I
Okay,
don't mind
thank you.
speaking to that. No problem. The answer is yes, they can. I mean, ideally, it would be great if you could have your child toileted if they're able. If that's not the case, that's not to worry. But we would really highly encourage throughout the summer, closer to entering kindergarten, that again, that could be an opportunity for practice. And there's pamphlets actually on our website. I know Lutasha shared our website, and it's about toileting, as well as again, if you are having difficulties teaching your child how to toilet, that's not an issue. Just ensure that open communication and transparency is always occurring. And if you could share that information with the classroom teachers, the ECE and the classroom teacher, as well as principal and anyone else you may find support within that building. So again, that just allows us as the educators to kind of have a flag, like making sure that we're watching your child. And then again, enforcing those types of great behaviors in order to teach your child how to toilet as well.
I love multidisciplinary team presentations, because between one of us, we might have the answer for you. Thank you so much.
So true. I think I saw a question we might have missed when we were talking about self-care skills. So, is there a way to overcoming stubbornness in regards to self-care skills, for example, picking up after themselves being a struggle? That's a great question. I think that the more you can practice it throughout natural opportunities as you kind of go through the next few months prior to them transitioning to kindergarten, the better. It's not going to always look perfect. And I think a couple things to note too is, that's developmentally appropriate for them to give some pushback on that. I think, kind of making it a game can be really helpful. Thinking about utilizing it in a way where it's like, okay, first we need to clean up our toys, and then having that then aspect something that they're really excited about. So there's a little bit more motivation to do that. You can make it a game. I'm a mom to a toddler, and I think a lot of times it's like, okay, we're going to do this. Mom can help out a little bit, but you need to do it too. And just modeling a lot of that, making it really naturalistic. And then I think the other thing to think about too is sometimes what we see at home looks very different when your child is around other children, and other children may be imitating those skills, or the directions coming from an educator. So, a lot of these skills we're talking about, we're just trying to give you information in terms of a framework to kind of think about these things, but it's not always going to look perfect, and it's just things we can work towards as parents to help support our children.
Excellent. And 2 more questions have come in since. One of them was
Okay.
about partial toileting. My child can go on her own, but does not wipe her on her own. Sarah Crockford, are you able to take that for us? Or maybe not.
Oh, no, I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So again, partially training, everything is welcome. We're a very welcoming community. As long as you're communicating that with the classroom teachers and the principal, there'll always be support. And I can see a question about ASD too as well. If you can share that, I'm here on the call, so I may as well answer that question too. Again, we welcome all of our kinders. As long as you can communicate to the adult people in the building, there will always be support in our classroom. So that may look different from classroom to classroom, and depending the needs and wants and concerns that we may have. But again, most classrooms will definitely have a minimum of 2 adults. I can speak, since COVID, we certainly have more people within our classrooms that are always adult people in our classrooms that are great supports too, that we can lean on. So again, for the question about toileting and the question about ASD, I would actually contact your feeder school, so wherever your child is registered, even this week, because earlier the better, in order to allow our administrators, so our principals and our teachers to know what your child will require when they enter in September. Thank you for these wonderful
Thank
questions.
you, Sarah. And yeah, with regards to the diagnosis of ASD, mom says, or dad, I am worried about her and all the things she'll need to do in school. Will she have support inside the classroom that can help her? And that is the most amazing and honest question, because we all worry for a multitude of reasons, with or without a diagnosis, but that is where your communication with the school that is expecting to have your child, so that they can prepare and be aware of your child's unique learning needs. That's exactly where we're at. Do kindergarten kids have uniforms? Not in Durham Catholic, as far as I know. Is that correct? No.
That is correct. No uniforms. Uniforms take place at Durham Catholic when they enter high school or secondary school.
Thank you.
So one of the biggest anxieties is called anticipatory anxiety, when you're anticipating things that you don't know. So if this is your first child that you're bringing to kindergarten and you don't know, the fears can be bigger because you're not really sure what it's going to look like. And they're not having you there to support for the day. But to bring down the worries as soon as you can, introducing yourself to people at the school and asking the questions and having the conversations, and the school will be communicating with you as well with how to prep and what you need to have and some support strategies. And hopefully from this take home information tonight, it will get you starting in a few of the areas. But to bring down some of the anxiety or worry or nervousness about their first day, have a conversation with the school so that you can start to feel like you're connected with them in knowing who you're bringing your child to. And the teacher will be reaching out to you at an appropriate time so that you can get to know them as well. So there's a lot of setup for welcome. Also, if you're going to any of the churches on the Sunday or for celebratory occasions, many of our families might also be attending church that is closer to the school. So you might meet people there in advance as well. And they have daycares and ongoing fun things for the youngsters while mass is occurring for the adults. That if you're interested in that, there could be some free access to people there before the start of school and through school, if you should so wish. One big area of I think management in busy lives are the emotions of our kids. And this slide is discussing what can we do about these big emotions from our children. So from a psychological perspective, I can tell you that if you've got access to Sick Kids website, just pulling up recommended sleep hours, it might surprise you how many hours are expected for students and for youngsters. So actually, like my 11-year-olds are supposed to sleep 9 to 11 hours. When you have a very solid good night's sleep, it is an automatic reset of your regulatory system. So big emotions, one thing to think is, has my child had that amount of sleep? Because sometimes a very tired child with big emotions, you can't talk them out of the big emotions. They just might need a bit of downtime or rest and less stimulation, a hug, sitting and reading a book, or watching a little bit of a show with you sitting with them, not just calming down and realizing that they're going to need a better night's sleep. What I did with my children was, if they were on 10 hours and they were not regulated, I would go back by 30 minutes and start at 9:30. And if that wasn't doing it, I would go back another half hour and start at 9 o'clock and try to start the bedtime routine a half an hour before bed, where I'm starting to teach what they do at school. And you can draw a little picture, which is, brush your teeth, go to the toilet, put pajamas on, and with assistance or older sibling assistance or parent assistance, getting them into a bit of a routine about 30 minutes before sleep time. A little bit of 5 minutes of reading. Remember, it doesn't have to be a lot. And giving them enough sleep can lessen the amount of time that you might have to manage big emotions. So it's important just to know that kids show a range of emotions, but they don't know how to say, this is sad or this is happy. They're learning that. So even yourself, when you're happy, you can express that I'm happy or I'm sad or I'm a little mad right now. Not at you, but when you drop that all over the floor, it may be just a bit upset, but I'll help and you help me clean it up. We'll clean it together. If you don't have time, if you could clean it up, but really identifying that it was the behavior, and not them that are the problem. So that you're identifying, can you help me clean that up? When you did that, yes, it upset me because we have to clean it up. It's taking a bit of time, but if you could help me, that would be amazing. If they are super emotional and getting angry, you can say to them, I can see that you're angry. So identifying the emotion right away. In fact, if you even practice this with adults, you'll see them relax quite quickly. If you say, I see that you're angry, it's like you're validating and just acknowledging that the emotion exists. Oh, I see you're so happy. Look, did you draw that picture? Oh, I see you're angry. Oh, is that not your favorite food? But we've got to eat it anyway. Let's try this first. Let's go and eat this first and eat our nuggets first, and then we'll try eating the carrots next. Choosing something else to do together. So if you have the sense that you're not going to be able to support a calm down because they're just tired or it's been a long day, it's the end of the day, you can say, oh, let's go and do this together. Let's go and sit on the couch and read these together. Let's draw together, and just use distraction where you can also calm yourself and support yourself. So if your child's upset and you often can feel upset or frustrated, please go easy on yourselves and don't feel guilty. We're all human. But you don't need to talk too much. You can take a short mental break, a few deep breaths. If the neurological brain research shows some really cool things, that when you take a calm breath, it actually sends all of the blood flow to your problem solving centers at the front of your brain. And so those deep breaths actually have big impact on your ability to stay calm, but also problem solve. When we're really angry and we're not calm, all the blood flow actually stays at the center of our brain, and it kind of keeps us in an angry state. So the few deep breaths actually have a lot of research that supports us, our ability to get to problem solving. It's not just kind of fluffy stuff. It really does have a big impact, just a few deep breaths. So in and out while you're contemplating how to respond, and just identifying the motion at the same time as you're breathing. Whoa, you seem really mad. You seem so sad. And then saying, let's go read a book. Let's squish some Play-Doh. Let's go play outside. You're not reinforcing bad behavior. What you're actually doing is saying, hey, you feel so sad. Let's try to just do something else for the moment, and then we can problem solve after. I know you wanted your tablet and your iPad to play, but you know what? Now we can't have it. We're going to go do some Play-Doh or blocks instead. You can have it after we do that, or you can have it, we'll play Play-Doh, and then we'll clean up what we spilt together, and then we'll do the tablet. And remember, they're very young, so each of these little pieces can just be 5 minutes. If you're in public and your child is having a bit of a meltdown and they're upset, and you feel all eyes on you in the mall or the store, you can take your calm breath and just say, boy, you seem really upset. Let's go and get a snack together. Let's go grab 10 oranges and 5 apples. Let's go see the fish. After we finish grabbing the groceries, we'll go see the fish at the pet store. Immediately just having some distraction to support the identification of the emotion, and then let's go do this, and distracting away the emotion to something else. Praising your child lots. I know when we're busy, and I know with myself, with my twins, it can be a lot of don't this, don't that, don't do this, get that. Trying to remember to say great job, but for simple things, thank you for flushing the toilet, great job turning the sink off, great job helping me with your brother or your sister. those little grape jobs. Boy, we made some great choices together, didn't we? We like got out, saw the pet store, and then we got out of the mall together, and now we're going to go home and we get to do some fun things, some more fun things together. Avoid isolating your child by leaving them alone. When children are left alone upset, they don't know how to regulate. They're very young. They don't have the language capacity to, or the psychological capacity to say, I'm alone now, therefore I shouldn't have done what I just did. They are seeking comfort, and comforting and supporting and identifying the emotion and talking them through, and just even saying, if you're very angry, we need to just take a bit of a break. I'd like you just to sit over here. Here's your stuffed animal. I'm going to be right here beside you, cooking or doing some of my work, but I'm still here, but I need you to take a bit of a break right now. You can do some coloring or drawing, but you're very upset and I need to teach you to take a break. Doing that is very helpful for teachers when they arrive at school. The teacher who's got many kids in the classroom, if they can redirect and say, oh, you seem really sad or upset right now. How about you come over here and sit next to this little guy or this little girl, and you do some coloring together. So it's a lot of strategy that you'll be supporting if you can prep your children for some of this. Katie, I can't see the chat because I'm slideshow sharing. So are there questions coming up?
There is one about the welcome to kindergarten. If you don't mind, can I add to that? Katie, I know that you did a great job responding.
Yeah, go ahead.
Perfect, thank you. So just to add to that, maybe that is again another amazing opportunity in which you could contact your school in which you've registered your child at, because these days differ, and I would really be disappointed if you missed it. So they vary. From May 1st is the first open or welcome to kindergarten evening, the first school that I am aware of, or Lutash and I are aware of, that will be hosting, but they go as far as mid-June. So again, connecting with your school, and the more you can connect with the school that you are participating in or registered at, again, gives you that sense of belonging, that sense of community. So we would really encourage you to do so.
Thank you, Sarah. That was great. I had a question about a child with some challenges pronouncing the S sound. And of course, I can't make suggestions based on that, but I did send her a private message with some information. Different sounds develop at different ages. So it's not terribly uncommon for a 4-year-old to have difficulties with S or the sound, especially in blends like spider or stop. It might come out as piter or top or sop. So just keep in mind that if you are looking for advice or suggestions around specific speech sound errors, reach out to Grandview for an assessment through the publicly funded system, or I can put in the website for everyone to see in order if they're interested in hiring a private SLP to do an assessment before school. But S is actually a sound that is not yet considered to be necessarily mastered by the age of 4. We had a question from a student regarding, if my child doesn't want to eat food, will the teachers help with that? And I know in attending many kindergarten sessions, Ms. Crockford, please correct me if I'm wrong, but there is always an educator in the room. Your child is always being supervised during meal times. But as far as I understand, they will not be feeding your child or coercing your children to eat. Is that correct?
Well, I would state again the importance again where your containers are easily accessible that you're sending with your child, that the food is readily available for your child to be able to attain it. I can also state that there are various times throughout the day in which your child will have opportunity to partake in eating, i.e. recess time, so there's 2 a day, and then we do have a 40-minute period at lunch in which your child will be able to eat. If you're finding that your child is consistently bringing home a whole ton of food back, which I can also state, I'm a mom of 3 children, that happens, and mine are somewhat adult-like teenagers. Just again, having that communication with your ECE and classroom teacher in your classrooms will be beneficial, because they can oversee when they're supervising the classroom, and maybe even just, encouraging your child. Let's go, Susie. You've got 4 or 5 grapes left. That kind of thing could occur.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
This slide's just sharing a few apps that you could access to help build some social emotional skills. There's the Brave, Think, Do with Sesame, Smiling Mind, and Mindful Powers. Separating, just remember that your child at this age is not necessarily visualizing the separation. They're going to arrive at school and look for something exciting and new. So if you think about when you go to the zoo or you go to the park, they might not be visualizing where they're going. They don't know the kindergarten experience possibly yet. They haven't been in the classroom. So if they haven't been there, then in their mind's eye, they're not seeing where they're going. So making it an exciting, we're going here today, and bringing them in and sharing into the shared experience in the classroom of, this is your teacher, I told you about them, and the teacher and yourself having there'll be a setup of what's going to happen very first thing. And typically the children will engage in the first activity and be excited to stay. They might give you the look potentially of don't leave me, but you think of the times, and many times you've done that before, whether it's leaving with a babysitter or leaving with a friend or having dropped them off at a small class at the rec center. They have managed to separate. So you could, if you can, sign them up or prep them with some family members or friends where you can kind of play out some separation before arriving at school, so it's not their first separation. They will get used to it. They live a pretty timeless world, so they're not necessarily thinking, oh boy, I'm here for X number of hours. They are, ooh, what's next? What can I see? What's fun? And there's so many different activities and recess to keep them occupied. And as soon as they engage with other children, just like going to the park or a game place, you have had experiences where they've successfully separated and gone and played with others. So keep that in your own mind's eye. I don't suggest having a sit-down conversation and prepping them about, this is what it's all going to look like. It can be overwhelming, but you could give them a few small bits if they're asking, like, what's in the classroom. If they've had an opportunity to see the classroom in advance or see the teacher, then they do have a bit of a vision of what that is, and you can just remind them of that. And just making it an exciting experience. When you are there and you're separating, giving your child the full eye contact and focused attention, and whatever words are in your language that in your world that support the idea of love, and I'm here to support you, and you're going to do a great job, and it'll be lots of fun. Trying to keep your nerves to yourself with some calm breaths, because they can sense that a bit. So you're trying to show that this is going to be fun and you believe it's going to be fun, and hiding your own nerves to the best of your own ability. Providing some affection, but a routine of when you arrive at school, I double check you've got everything, and I say goodbye with a high five or a hug or kiss or a pat on the back, whatever works for you and your family. But having a little bit of routine will indicate that there's about to be separation. There's your teacher, hi, indication of separation. And then taking your leave. There'll be parents doing the same thing, so you'll be in a bit of a group and not isolated when you're all separating and leaving. Quick goodbye routines that are specific and brief, and just being consistent with your drop-off, pickup, and school routines helps your child realize what's going to happen, and they start to put a vision of that in their mind. If it changes too often, they can get a little worried. So consistency and arriving with your routine, your small little routine, can be very helpful to reduce any anxiety there might be, and just practicing being apart.
Dr. Evans, I don't want to interrupt you, but are you able to go back just a slide? I believe you had apps there. People are asking if they can see the apps. And I believe it's Paul. Paul, if you want to just screenshot that or take a picture with your phone or however you want to document that, that would be awesome. Thank
And
you.
Katie, these slides are shared? Okay. Shared.
Right, thank you. Yes, they will be up on our website as well. Thank
Oh,
you.
Great.
And how does that look for kids who are taking the bus, Dr. Evans? That was a question in the chat.
Oh, well, prepping can be going on a public bus together just to practice bus. But I realize that you're together on that public bus when you're practicing. I'm not suggesting that you separate and send your child by themselves as if it was a school bus, but even just practicing together going on a public bus so they can realize, the doors open, go up the stairs together, sit, and just say, this is what your school bus is going to be like. That you'll be sitting with another kid from your child from your class. So prepping that ride on the bus if you would like. The same ideas, just gonna hope everybody got their screenshot. These same ideas of when you get to the bus stop, having your routine of confidence, looking them in the eye and saying, you're gonna have a great day. I know, you're going to go and meet your teacher. There will be other kids to play with. There'll be fun activities. I love you, or high five, or pat in the back. Like I said, whatever works for you and your family. A quick affection, and you're creating routine by, this is your bus driver. Look, it's your bus driver. It's Damien, your bus driver. We wave to the bus driver. I'm sure you've seen that in many of the kids' books. I remember that from my kids. There was always waving to the bus driver. That's a routine. And if whatever routine suits you, to try to just, I know we're very busy in the morning prepping our days, but trying to stay off your cell phone for even just a few minutes, just to have eye contact in the experience. They're picking up as that being a routine. And if you're consistent with that in the morning, it allows them to drop any nerves and and separate and get onto the bus. And then just again, practicing being apart. I don't know if anybody else had any other ideas there for parents.
There was a question about kindergartners being escorted when they get off the bus. And Ms.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm wondering if
Rockford, I'm sure would be great. Yeah. And the question about the 1.6 kilometers away from the school, well, my kid can take the school bus. All those questions can be addressed directly at the school that you are planning to send your child to.
Sure. So was the question that you would like me to answer? Sorry, I missed that. Regarding the bus, is that right?
Just clarifying if the children will be escorted as they get off the bus. They're not being let out into the yard with no supervision. They're being greeted, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's always someone, an adult there before school starts, as well as after school starts, meaning that there will be an adult that will take your child from the bus to start school, and there will be an adult that will bring your child to bring them to you after school. And then I guess the other question regarding I am 1.6 kilometers away from the school, will my child take a bus? Again, that would I would encourage you to reach out to the secretary at your school. She'll have that, or he will have that information readily available. We do have jurisdictions, or we have guidelines that we follow, but they vary. And then I guess my other thing would be, if you would like to, you could actually contact the bus line directly, which I can see Lutasha has offered that information there. So if you click there, there'll be a contact number, and you could contact them as well, just to see what the answer, because I actually won't be able to answer that off the cuff. Do you mind telling me what school you're at, if you don't mind? Okay, no worries. So we can carry on, but for the question regarding the 1.6 kilometers away, I would notify or ask your secretary at your school that you registered your child at, and or contact the school bus, which the information is found in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle?
All right. So we're just going to take you guys through some different resources to help prepare for separating. So similarly to like some of the apps, there's lots of great resources out there to talk to your child about separating and going to school. So Going to School Social Story by Lindsay Highland is an online book you can access. Free Back to School Story by Educating for Everyone.
Sorry, Michelle, I accidentally muted you as I was trying to mute someone else. My apologies. Can you unmute?
Yes, absolutely. Can you just let me know where I finished, Katie? Oh. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I'll just go back to the book. So there's Ruby's Worry by Tom Percival, which is a book you can access. And then there's a couple YouTube videos on it. So Care Tune by Anxiety Canada on separation anxiety, and Nixie and Nimbo Cartoon by Child Mind Institute is another YouTube video that you can access. So we can just leave that slide up there quickly again if those parents want to take a quick picture of that list. But there's so many resources out there. And I think one of the parents had popped in and said that they had looked at some books as well about my first day at kindergarten to kind of prep around those concepts as well, of some more things that they can expect. Okay, we can go to the next slide.
If people want to take a quick screenshot, I'm going to move to the next slide, but it will also be posted on the website.
Okay, so the next couple slides we're going to go through are going to kind of just wrap up our presentation, and I am mindful of the time. So I'm going to go through these fairly quickly to give any opportunities for us to answer a few last questions that may come in. So I think one message that we want to send kind of to end and cap this conversation is the fact that, and so we've kind of talked about this theme throughout the presentation, is the fact that every child is going to develop at their own rate and pick up on skills and learn skills at their own rate and in a different way. And we really just want to reinforce the idea, again, we've talked about a little bit this about tonight, just meeting them where they're at. Meet them where they're at and encourage small baby steps to the next step of some of the concepts and ideas that we've talked about tonight. You know, we're just trying to give parents some guidelines around some ways that they can help their child prepare for kindergarten. But again, meet your child where they're at. They're their own individual and they're learning their own things at their own rate. Okay. The next couple slides we're going to go through are some community resources. And the reason why we wanted to add some of these things, if there's some resources that would be helpful for parents in terms of being able to take your child out into the community and engage with other children in a play-based manner, meet other parents who may be at the same milestones that you're at or experiencing the same things in terms of kindergarten coming up this September. So the first is the Durham Region Early On programs. These are free programs that are based in your own town or city that you live in. So if you go on the Durham Region website, you'll have to go and find your own town or city that you live in. And through those drop-down menus, you can see the different programs that are coming up for the Early On program and when you need to register for them. These are really fantastic programs where you can take your children to engage with other children and practice some of the things that we've been talking about. Durham Libraries is another great way to go as well, which will then link you potentially to your town or city local libraries where they have lots of different programs for children. I know I took my own daughter last summer to some of their circle programs and they were fantastic. They did songs and turn taking and they were in the park. So often we would end up playing with the kids who are participating in the library program afterwards. And it just gives that opportunity for that engagement with other children and for them to play and practice some of these things. Again, those are free programs. Durham Behavior Management is if you need some support in terms of behavior management in the home environment, you can contact them. Caria, what was the context specifically that we wanted to add for Caria? Does anyone want to speak to that?
I just know that they offer programs for parents, they offer kids programming, lots of supports, especially if there are some anxieties or worries. They have some great programs that are specifically Indigenous in nature. And yeah, so.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think we have a couple more on the next slide that we can show you guys. There's the Grandview Kids link that Katie had previously discussed, if anyone needs to access that again. And that will take you directly to their speech and language pathology page. And then some other things that we kind of talked about already is just connecting with your, if you are a member of a church or your local parish, connecting with them, because there's often a lot of opportunities, as Dr. Evans mentioned, for you to be able to have your child engage with other children and programming that happens during service or outside of that as well. Okay, so those are just giving you some ideas of some community options that you have locally. All right. So I think that is it for us right now. Do we have any other questions come through?
No more questions that have come through on the chat, but are there any questions right now that families would like to ask? I'm so grateful for this turnout tonight. We rock. Great job, everybody. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to talk about how to support your young and new learners to Durham Catholic. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Feel free to stick around or type them in the chat. It's always a lot of things to digest. So the really neat thing is that it is recorded and then uploaded onto the website for future viewing, because I'm sure everybody wants to hear us again.
And again, you know, right now we're in April, mid-April, and you have till the early September. You will be finding out when your school's welcome to kindergarten is, or evening will be. So you'll get to meet the classroom teachers, and then you'll be able to see what your classroom looks like, where you put a bag in the cubby, where the local or where the bathroom is, you know, where the outdoor space is. And then, of course, if you have questions along the way, please contact your school. They're there to ensure that you have all the answers that you need. So they really are the best resource.